You found a berry in the woods. Red, glossy, perfect. It looks like nature blew its whole marketing budget on it. You pop it in your mouth. What's the harm? A pretty berry couldn't possibly wish you dead. A minute later, the berry still looks gorgeous. You, not so much. Your face is green. Your stomach has ordered an evacuation, and the forest suddenly feels a lot less cozy. Now, the same forest. 30,000 years ago. Your ancestor walks right past that same bush and doesn't even slow down. No internet, no doctor, no little not-for-eating label. So how did he spot the danger before you did? Today, you'll find out how ancient people read plants, why taste or color alone was never enough, and how a piece of that system is still sitting in your mouth right now. First, the big myth. Most people picture ancient learning like this. See a plant, eat it, survive. You remember it. D, well, guess it was poisonous. Valuable lesson. Shame about the student. The problem is, with some plants, there is no second tree. Picture a small band of 20 people. One of them decides to test an unknown route, and the group just lost the one person who knew how to find water. For a small tribe, that isn't one death. It's a skill nobody has anymore. So the real rule wasn't eat everything. It was don't touch the unknown until someone you trust shows you this exact plant has already been eaten. Your ancestor wasn't wandering the forest like a reckless food critic. He moved along a map he already knew. The map just wasn't in a phone. It was in people's memory. Today, you see a berry and type, "Is this safe to eat?" A blog opens. First, a story about Grandma's cottage. Then ayam recipe. Then an ad for gardening gloves. And somewhere at the very bottom, do not eat this berry. By the time you scroll that far, your ancestor has already walked around the dangerous bush and moved on. Because he didn't have the internet. He had a system. But where did the very first knowledge come from? There was no magic safe checkmark. The forest doesn't use those. So your ancestor didn't read one sign. He built a whole portrait of the plant. Bitter? First warning bell. The buddy winces and wants to spit it out. Wheat sop from a broken stem. Stop. A sharp smell where there shouldn't be one. Stop. A bush that even the birds avoid, you avoid it too. And the one question nobody asks today, not what is this, but which part, in which month, raw or over fire. The same berry could feed you, while its seeds could kill you. And here's why not one of these signs worked alone. Bitter isn't always poisonous. Poison isn't always bitter. A bird is not a licensed food taster for your stomach. Ache signal by itself proved nothing. Only the whole picture worked. Color, leaf shape, place, season, the part of the plant, and how it was prepared, all stacked together. The forest wasn't like a store. It was more like a huge kitchen with no labels, where half the ingredients need a secret recipe. Today, you have an app instead. You point your camera at a sinister black bush covered in thorns, and it cheerfully announces, "Blueberry, 83% confidence." 83. The remaining 17, that's exactly the part after which you won't need the app anymore. Your ancestor didn't just know the name. He knew the plant's entire file. But one person still couldn't memorize an entire forest. The knowledge didn't live in one person's head. It lived in the group. One knew the trees by the river, another the roots on the dry slopes. Someone remembered where the berries appear after cold nights. Each one carried a piece. Together, they made a whole encyclopedia. The elders taught the young not with lectures, but during real work. This leaf, this branch, this is where it grows. This part we take, this part we don't touch. A child would bring a finding to an adult, and the elder checked it before it ever reached the food. A practical exam. Only instead of a bad grade, the prize was not poisoning the whole dinner. Knowledge passed through stories, too. A table is easy to forget. A scary tale about a bush that steals children is much harder to forget. A child might not understand the chemistry, but the rule stuck for good. Don't go near that bush. So the elders weren't just elderly relatives. They were a living library. A library with no backup copy. And that library had a dark side. We see the rules that reached us, but we don't know who got it wrong first, who fell ill, who first said, "Don't eat this." The knowledge survived. The name did not. But this encyclopedia had a limit. And here's the important thing to understand about it. The knowledge was tied to a place. For centuries, your tribe had read its forest, its trees, its berries, its roots. Every rule tested, every file collected. And then the climate changed. The herd moved away, the river dried up, and you had to pull up your roots and go somewhere you had never been. And on that new land, your encyclopedia turned into a blank page. Unfamiliar bushes, unfamiliar fruit, almost like the ones back home, but not. A berry you ate without a second thought at home could be its poisonous twin out here. The whole memory of the tribe, pod for over generations, was worth almost nothing in a new place. And someone became the first all over again, tasting again, paying again, so that 100 years later his children could walk past a new bush without a second thought. The knowledge couldn't be carried with you forever. It had to be gathered again, and every time at the same price. Stop for a second. You think that when you walk past a poisonous bush, you're simply not eating it. Nothing happens. But something already did, a very long time ago. Someone tasted that plant and got very sick. Someone noticed the connection, and a long story shrank down to 2 words: don't touch. 10 generations later, they remembered the event. 50 later, only the story. 100 later, just the bare rule. No name, no reason. Grandma's "don't touch that" is sometimes more than caution. It's the trace of an old experience, almost a headstone, only the writing on it wore away long ago. You receive the result of someone else's mistake without even knowing whose it was. Someone got it wrong. Someone remembered. Someone told a child. And one day that rule reached you. For free. Even though, for the first people, it was anything but free. And now, what I promised you at the very beginning. Remember the first rule? Bitterness? It didn't stay in the past. It's in your mouth right now. When you wince at something bitter, that's not a whim. It's an old alarm. Careful. Not a perfect one. Bitter can be safe, and poison isn't always bitter. But as a first warning, it worked for thousands of years. Let's go back to that red berry from the start. Your ancestor walked past it not because he was braver than you. Behind him stood hundreds of voices, parents, elders, stories, and the mistakes of people he had never seen. You have the internet today. He had a tribe. And when you wince at something bitter, part of that ancient system is still switching on. You carry their knowledge inside you. Honestly, that pretty berry from the beginning, would you have eaten it? Most people say no, and yet the hand reaches out. Drop a comment. What strange food rule do you remember from childhood that you've never once checked? And I'll tell you who may have paid for it.